All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Robin, can you please call roll?
Mr. Powitz?
Here.
Mr. McNulty?
Here.
Mr. Bellis?
Here.
Mr. Pierce?
Here.
Mr. Beer?
Here. Okay, thank you. On to new business. We're here tonight to discuss the rezoning application ZON-22-09, which is NFMS Properties LLC, located at 5351 North Road, Lewis Center, Ohio. Robin, can you please give the staff report?
This is a rezoning request requesting to rezone one parcel totaling 24.019 acres from single-family planned residential to a new single-family planned residential district to allow a development with both unattached and attached condominiums. This site is one parcel totaling 24.019 acres located on the northeast corner of North Road and Shanahan Road. This is east of the currently developed North Farm single-family development. The site is bordered to the north by a planned residential district, which is the Evans Farm portion that is in Berlin Township. To the south and to the west are the currently existing North Farms developments, and the site is bounded to the east by the railroad and the Jennings Sports Park portion of Evans Farm. The 2018 Comprehensive Land Use Plan, Planning Orange, refers to this sub-area in sub-area 13, which encourages planned office, planned commercial, or single family at 2 units per acre in this sub-area. A summary of the materials proposed in the applicant's rezoning request. The applicant is proposing 85 units. 24 of the 85 units are attached condominium buildings, meaning 12 buildings or 24 units would be attached. The rest would be detached single-family condominiums. The overall density of the site would be 3.54 dwelling units per acre, which is a divergence request from the Orange Township zoning resolution. Plans submitted show a mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units. There is language in the development text that allows some flexibility where single-family units could be substituted where duplexes are proposed, which would lower the overall density of the development. This is acceptable to staff as long as they comply with the building separation laid out in the development text. Because this is a condo development with no fee simple lots, there are no individual lots. And so divergences are requested for a number of development standards, including lot width and lot depth, as well as side yard setbacks. So the applicant is specifically seeking a divergence to allow residential structures to be located no closer than 10 feet between the units instead of a traditional side yard setback. In terms of building setbacks, North Road, Shanahan Road, and Hibbing Lane are all Class C roads under the Orange Township zoning resolution, which puts the setback at 30 feet minimum from the right-of-way. The applicant is also proposing a 20-foot setback from interior private face of curb roadway to the face of the building, since there is no actual right-of-way on these private streets. The rear yard setback, there are no rear yards proposed, since this, again, is a condo development. The rear facade to facade separation is proposed at 40 feet between the rear of the units. Residences along North Road are proposed to have a 45-foot setback from the road. Residents along Shanahan Road would have a 55-foot setback from Shanahan Road. Maximum lot coverage. The Orange Township zoning resolution lays out that buildings cannot exceed 25% of the overall area. This development would comply with that standard. The applicant is also proposing a minimum floor space for each single-family dwelling unit of 1,500 square feet. As a staff comment, we are generally supportive of the divergences for setback requirements and lot sizes, as this is a condo-style development that does not have traditional fee simple lots. It's simply not something that is taken into account in our zoning resolution. In terms of architectural elements, the front of the condos shall be comprised entirely of stone, brick, cultured stone, wood, or cementitious fiber such as hardy plank or any combination thereof. Exteriors are prohibited to be finished with high gloss or high chroma colors. The same or similar front elevations and or color treatment shall not be repeated for any home located within 1 unit on either side or directly across the street from the subject home. And one further staff comment, we did note that there are several units that back up to North Road, and since the architectural requirements are slightly more stringent in the front of the units rather than the rear, we suggest that buildings facing North Road should include more architectural features on the rear of the buildings. In terms of open space, total open space proposed is roughly 6.5 acres or 27.06% of the total area of the site. That does meet the open space requirement of 20%, even without the basin pond. If you exclude that from the calculations, the open space would be 23.39%. One comment from staff regarding the open space, the centralized green space that is shown on the plans only includes a centralized mailbox. We believe the applicant should consider adding additional amenities such as clubhouse, pool, play equipment area, dog park, et cetera, et cetera. That is not an exhaustive list, merely suggestions. I believe some of the emails that we received from the neighbors in the North Farms development specifically mentioned playground equipment, so that might be a point of departure for the applicant. Lighting would be in compliance with the zoning resolution. There is no street lighting proposed in this development. Parking spaces would meet the required standards in the zoning resolution. Proposed internal streets are proposed to be 26 feet in pavement, and parking would be limited to one side of the street. No parking signs would be installed on the same side of the street as fire hydrants. All condos would have a 2-car garage and a driveway for at least 2 cars, not encumbering any sidewalk or street. Signage would comply with the zoning resolution. I believe they are proposing 1 monument sign for their development. 2 vehicular access points are proposed. One would stem off of North Road and entering on the west side of the property. The other access is shown extending Hibbing Lane from the southern portion of the property into this development. Additionally, 10-foot asphalt multi-use pathways are proposed along North Road and Shanahan Road, as well as 4-foot asphalt or concrete multi-use paths to be included internally. There are a total of 10 requested divergences. One is to allow duplexes within the single-family plan residential district. The second divergence is requesting a divergence from the requirement to plat, since this will not be platted into individual lots. They are requesting a divergence from that standard. The third divergence is for intensity of use, increasing the density to 3.4 units per acre, which exceeds the requirement of a maximum of 2 units per acre. Another divergence is requested for maximum units to a single acre, which in one portion near the center of the property would be 8 units per acre in that one portion. Exhibit C3 shows this to clarify. Additionally, divergences are requested, as previously mentioned, for standards for lot width, lot depth, side yard setback, and rear yard setback, because there are no individual lots. There is also a divergence requested for building setbacks from the internal roads. Since those roads will be private, there is no right-of-way. A minimum of 20-foot setback from the private internal roads is requested. And one final divergence requesting, instead of a side yard setback, it would be a structure separation, proposing that the required 15-foot minimum structure separation setback be reduced to 10 feet minimum of structure separation. One more additional staff comment, we would suggest consider rotating units 62 and 63 to face the north to provide a more uniform street facade, aligning better with the building next to it. With this turnaround to the east, building 61 does stick out. If you want to look at the site plans, it should be clear. For technical agencies, the Orange Township Fire Department did supply comments. There were more comments that are in the actual staff report. I apologize for not including those. One of their comments was that the private road that dead ends in the southern portion of the development would need a turnaround if it is greater than 150 feet in length. The fire department, I believe, has been in contact with the applicant. They will require turning radiuses for the fire trucks, as well as hydrant placement, road widths, and other standards. Plans will need to be submitted for review and approval of this project to the Orange Township Fire Department. Orange Township Operations Department, their comments are as follows. All street trees should remain outside of the right-of-way. They also request that the development text include clear responsibilities as to the maintenance of the entrances and specifically where the public portions of the roads would begin and end and the private portions would begin and end so that there's no confusion about maintenance. If the Farnham Street entrance is public, Moore Street and intersection detail would be needed for the operations department as North Road is a township road. Advanced warning mats and crosswalk signs are requested at all intersections, as well as breakaway bollards on the multi-use path that ends on Shanahan Road, because that would dead end into the railroad. And we appreciate the applicant adding the RRFB, the rectangular flashing beacon at the intersection of North Road and Farnham, but just we would ask that the applicant work with the county to make sure that it's installed correctly. The Delaware County Regional Planning Commission did recommend conditional approval of this rezoning request, subject to 5 comments. The first of their comments was to decrease the density by making the lots, although they are not actual lots, but by making those less dense adjacent to North Road, providing a transition to the single-family homes to the west. An increase in the amount of usable open space areas. Their third comment has already been addressed by the applicant, which was consider making the Hibbing Lane extension a full access connection. The applicant has done so. And their fourth comment was to consider removing the 12 duplexes in keeping with the spirit and intent of the Orange Township zoning resolution and comp plan requirements, and any other divergences as noted within the staff report. That concludes my staff report.
All right, thank you, Robin.
A question for you, Robin.
Sure.
What was the density when North Farms was approved? Because those were condos before, weren't they? Or apartments?
That I am not sure. Are you speaking to this site specifically?
Yeah, because it was approved in another configuration already. Once.
It was single family. I don't know the density off the top of my head.
Okay, so everybody's got issues with the duplex.
Okay, so at this time, we will open it up to the applicant. If there's someone the applicant or someone representing the applicant that wishes to speak and just kind of give an overview of the project, please state your name and address.
My name is Jack Reynolds. I'm an attorney with Smith & Hale at 37 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. And we have Todd Ferris, who is our land planner and landscape architect, who put together the package before you this evening. Robin did a very good job introducing you all to the development plan. You have a book full of beautiful maps. We provided you with the color renderings of the site. We also provided you with the elevations of the units themselves. This is, again, as Robin indicated, a condominium development. We started this process. We were aware of a couple of different projects that preceded us and about some concerns in terms of their impact on the community. And so at this point in time, we're presenting to you more of a single family development. That is why we went with the single family categorization rather than with the multifamily. Either way we went, we knew that we would need divergences based on the code, but we liked the fact that out of the 85 units, 61 of them would be freestanding single-family houses. They're aimed at the empty nester market. They will have first-floor master bedrooms. There will be the ability to finish the upstairs. Again, we have provided there are 3 different single-family units, interior layouts with different frontages at different elevations on the front of the units, and then there will be the 12 duplexes. And the reason we went with the 12 duplexes, they basically parallel the railroad track. And what we were trying to do was to provide some units at a lower cost because we could maximize our costs or minimize the costs, maximize product by providing some duplexes. Again, those are probably the least, what do I want to say? the least likely to sell, so we could sell them at a lower cost by making them duplexes. We had a meeting with, invited the neighbors here. We went through the program, explained what we were proposing to do. We'd like to think that what is being proposed to you all this evening is an appropriate land use given the railroad track. Todd has been involved with this property for quite a bit of time. I do believe the reason that we are here with this product is that there were no takers. Nobody would purchase the 44 lots and build single-family houses on those lots. So that developer who did the 44 lots ultimately sold it simply because nobody was interested in building the 44 single-family lots. So there have been two previous applications before you. We would like to think that we're presenting you all with an application that retains that single-family element that was approved by the Township trustees a couple of years ago. Again, it is one that allows us to move forward with an economic model for the people who are going to develop the property. And again, condominium, private roads, still has 26 feet of right-of-way parking on one side. We've parked the site appropriately. And if there are any other questions, I think we've tried to answer all of the questions that were brought by the technical staff. We have got the approved traffic study. The county engineer did approve the traffic study that was submitted. And let me say that I was involved with a development exactly like this in Dublin. It was the cottages at Ballantrae Woods, and it has been very successful. It's up off Churchman, just north of Rings Road, similar type of development, single-family houses on a condo lot, private streets, and I think they've sold out. I think they've got one left. So again, we can answer any questions that you all might have, and we can go from there. Again, I was happy to see that we had parking this evening and didn't have to worry about school buses and cross-country runners.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Jack. So what we'll do next is we're going to open it up to the board for questions, and then we'll get to public comment. At that time, we'll have anybody that wishes to speak tonight come up and state your name and address and try to, stick to about a 3-minute question or comment. And then for the sake of everybody's time tonight, just try not to be repetitive. If someone already made the comment, try not to just repeat it. Just only bring up new concerns or questions. All right, so we'll open it up to the board with questions. Who wants to go first?
You want me to go first?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Trying to think where to start. First of all, I'm concerned about the number of divergences, 10. Some of them are related it to being a condo complex, which I don't have problems with because condo is a form of land ownership. It shouldn't really apply to whether you're single family or multifamily or what have you. So for the platting variances, things like that, I'm not worried about. The divergences, however, some of them do have me concerned. One is basically, this is supposed to be zoned single-family residential with 2 units per acre, and we're talking about 24, 25 acres. That would sort of, the 85 is a lot you're asking for if you're asking for 3 to 4 units per acre. That is more towards what we would see in multifamily, not single family. There have been a lot of issues in this township when it comes to single-family homes. And a lot of projects we have specifically asked for no divergences, especially when it comes to density. All right, we've had that issue along Orange Road, we've had that issue along South Old State, we've had that issue along North Road and other areas. So I'd like to remind you all of that. The other issue I would have as well is the divergence for duplexes. A duplex is, I know it falls under the residential building code, but as far as our zoning code, it would be a multifamily. Almost like, you know, some of the FCONs, which are duplexes or fourplexes or threeplexes. So I would highly recommend that you stick with single family, no attached units because of our zoning code. The other issue I have is the side yard setback. I realize, you know, you're requesting a divergence for that. I understand as a condo, there are no side yards per se. Usually there is sort of an imaginary property line in the middle. Going from the 15, which I believe our code requires, to the 10, basically means you have like 7.5 feet between your unit and the imaginary property line. That for me starts to be a safety issue. There's a reason why the building code requires that space between residential units. If you get too close, you're going to have to start fire rating and limiting the openings on those sides of those buildings, which will make them less attractive and more expensive. And I will note, it looks like you referenced the 2013 Residential Code of Ohio, and I thought we were up to the 2017 now, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
19.
2019 Residential Code and 2017 Commercial then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so depending upon which one you're using, you're citing an old code, make sure. And I don't have the code reference in front of me to look it up, but it's a safety concern of having them to be too close together. There's a reason why there's that distance. You know, I understand there are no rear yards, so there is no rear yard setback. It looks like you did a good job making sure that at least along your neighboring areas, you are meeting that setback, so you will not impact the neighboring residential areas. So that's a good thing. Please make sure you do that. In terms of front yard setbacks, I understand because they're private street, there is no real front yard setback. However, it looks like you were providing sidewalks on both sides, which is a good thing. Thank you for doing that and making it more walkable. However, it needs to be 20 feet from the building line, or at least to the garage, to the sidewalk. Our township requires 20 feet. If you're going to park cars, consider them parking spaces. So you really need to be 20 feet from your sidewalk to the edge of your building. So those are the things off the top of my head. I actually, you know, I think the layout is good. I'm glad you made the connection to the south for safety reasons for the fire trucks and things of that nature. But again, in terms of the divergences, my concern is they're trying to pack too many houses. One, by, even though you're saying it's single family residential, which is what is currently zoned, you're really pushing multifamily with the duplexes and with the density. I think that's off the top of my head what I have in my notes. If anything else comes up, I will chime in later.
All right, thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Yeah, I have a few that you didn't mention. So, I mean, there's a lot I agree with with what Christine's saying. There is a staff comment that was made that I agree with as well, which is I think that we need to, and I know you guys had some rear elevations on some of the designs. I think there maybe is an opportunity here to add a high impact rear elevation that, you know, continues the stone water table or some of the elements from the front, maybe a stone accent wall or something, to where anything that is backing up to North Road, you know, has that high impact rear elevation associated with it. I agree with the, you know, the side yard setbacks that Christine's saying. I think that, so our code, I believe, for single family is 12 and a half, so it's 25-foot separation between structures. In the code, I know it pretty well because I've just went through this, but I think it's you know, anything under 10 foot has to be rated. So, you know, and that includes eaves, overhangs, all that stuff.
Any sort of projection.
Safety, very important, obviously, but that aside, I think that if you go through other communities where there is less than 15-foot separation between structures, it just looks overly crowded. I don't necessarily think that, well, I don't agree with the 10-foot. I don't think that that's a good idea. I think that, you know, we may be willing to grant a divergence on a side yard, and I know that we're doing that anyways because there's technically no yards, but I think at least for from a separation standpoint, we probably need to increase that a little bit. And if the answer is, you know, if it comes to it to where the duplexes, you know, I think that the text said there was some flexibility to make those single family. If it's just getting rid of those altogether, and then, you know, that gives more room to allow for, you know, a 15 or 20-foot separation, which is a lot closer to our code, I think would be more palatable. The one thing I will mention, so it came up in the previous developments, and if you went through those, you might recall. One thing that I think we all agreed on and really liked was there was a large buffer between North Road and then the community. I see that you guys have mounding, you have landscaping, which I appreciate, and I think, you know, it appears to be done well the way that it's designed. But I'll just ask that, and I don't know specifically what, you know, the house is going into the neighborhood across the street, what the setback from that structure to the right of way is, but I mean, it's scaling and it's obviously off an aerial, so. But it seems to be more in line with where you're 65 to 60 foot. I would like to see if there was a way to just strike that 60 foot or 65 all the way down across there to maintain that. So we, you know, that may include pulling those houses out or shifting everything over a little bit at the entrance there. Is that screen not working? Robin, are those no? The screen, TV's facing this way.
They're working.
Oh, they are. Okay. So that was just a comment, maybe to try to maintain. You know, I think you show a 60, 60 and a 65. Just maybe taking one of those and striking that all the way down the entire community, because it seems to be comparable to where, you know, those houses are at the entrance of the neighboring community. Regional planning's comment about usable open space. I mean, you guys, I think you're at 27, just over 27% open space. Our code says 20, so you're meeting that. But I do agree a little bit about more of a usable open space. It's kind of intermittent. It's kind of just where, you know, wherever it fits in between the houses right now. It's, you know, I think that if, and again, going back to a staff comment, with the amenities, if there was an opportunity here somewhere to put, you know, a tot lot or something to where, you know, it creates a more usable open space, I think that would go a long way for the design. And I had more just like you on my notes. I mean, I guess those are my general high level overview comments for now. Is there anybody else on the board?
Yeah, Go ahead.
Yeah, so with respect, I like the design. The fact it's combination of single family and multifamily personally because of just I think some of the previous stuff had multifamily things in it. I'm just wondering how did you when you thought about that, and I think you may have spoke to it just a few minutes ago, but what was your thought when you said, hey, how can we mix these two together, so to speak, single family and the duplex story working together?
Hi, I'm Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design, 4876 Cemetery Road. This is a practice actually that we have seen put in place by EPCON communities. So they have mixed the single and the doubles together. And the reason that they have done that is because they have a buyer that wants to be in their communities but can't quite get there. So they want to allow that. So they do that by design to allow somebody to get in here. We're doing that for that too, but we are making the assumption that anything backing up to that railroad track is going to have a lower price point.
Yeah.
So that's that easy. I mean,
yeah, because the other thing is the other ones that have been approved, they hadn't come to fruition just yet, and for whatever reasons, and I'm just wondering whether this gives this greater viability to exist and so forth. So I'm not so challenged by the divergence there. It is, I think it's rich, the amount, but what would you see as a, given that we have members who say, nope, it's totally out of it, and you're asking for a larger one. Is there a middle ground that you could play with there that says, hey, we don't have to have 3.5 or what have you, we can go down to 3, and that opens up space, opens up some of the other.
well, obviously that would open up space, but we haven't discussed that directly with the client yet. And that,
Yeah, we appreciate the comments so that we can, in fact, go back and say, we've heard from the board members, this is what they've said, how do we react to it?
Yeah, I guess I want to touch on something Dennis said at the beginning, but that the neighbors have bought in to this community with this being zoned single family. And all of a sudden now you're saying, oh, we can't make it work as single family. Well, Rockford made it work with houses along the back of the railroad track. So why all of a sudden now granted, I know the market's changed in terms of COVID and material costs and things like that, but in the same token, the price, has gone back to the consumer. I guess my concern is that, like I said, this was zoned single family. People moved to this community knowing that this was supposed to be single family, and now all of a sudden you're giving them what's basically considered a multifamily product. And I know you'll probably hear from members of the audience, I'm assuming the community. It just makes me nervous when we start doing that.
right. So as far as Todd Ferris, as far as Rockford, on that ground to the south, the deal when they bought ground in North Farms was they had to buy both pieces. MI was told the same thing, they wouldn't do it. Both MI and Rockford have been able to purchase this property for the last 10 years. Not a single person's come forward to buy it. It's the only reason it's here. So it's going to stay a pile of dirt or?
Yeah, well, the point is, Rockford made it work.
No, they bought it, it's theirs.
Because
They had to.
Because they could offset it with the community on the other side. It's almost like, my understanding is that there were 3 developers, and the developer who waited to the very end, all of a sudden is like, oh, I can't make it work. Whereas the other 2 tried to fulfill their end of the obligation. That just makes me nervous, the precedent that could establish, or the community.
Yeah. My thought is that it's been a challenge for a while, right? That whole little strip or what have you, it's been a challenge for a while. And from the perspective of, at the end of the day, you all are the investors, right? And the dirt is the dirt, and hopefully people are tired of seeing the dirt, and there's nothing like having a community that can be a viable, productive, contributing group to even the neighbors across the street. So, I mean, I can appreciate, you're coming up with something that is not just this one, because we've had the experience of others who weren't successful of it.
Mhm.
And you're taking a model from someone else that says, you know what, they made it work. Perhaps we can make this work. So that's why, personally, I can go along with that divergence kind of story of saying, hey, let's do this multifamily, single family mixed thing here, recognizing that even some of the homes that are closer to the track, or the duplexes close to the track, will hopefully be even more affordable for some families to come in and so forth, again, within the community. So I think I can dance with that, but reducing the density portion to some degree. So
The
that's
only
my thought.
thing, to Christine's point, is things do change.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's unfortunate. And that's why we have a rezoning process is, you know, you try something, and if it doesn't work, you don't try again to make it fail.
Right.
So, you know, we're here trying to make something work, and obviously we want to be respectful of our neighbors. And that's why we set about devising a plan that utilized single-family houses as a part of the development. You know, we've heard from the neighborhood that they don't like apartment-style buildings, even as a rental or as a condo. And so we stepped back and said, okay, you know, it's 24 acres, and we're trying to make it work. You know, and that's why we went with the single-family designation with the divergences, because we don't want to draw attention to the term multifamily, because it's got a bad taste. And so, you know, we're here simply saying it is a single-family community, except for the duplexes. But we want to make something work, and that's why we're here. And the piece of property is before the township for the fourth time now.
And just real quick, even the you said it was targeted toward what type of individuals?
Empty nesters.
Empty nesters. And so, even at that, from a duplex perspective, even if we're considering the duplex perspective, is it really as much multifamily as in the traditional sense of term of multifamily? It's really just people saying, hey, you know what? Going back to the Epcon story, I'm close to my neighbor and just hanging out, and we live next to one another. So again, I think it's a great concept. Again, as you've noted, it's been presented, or something's been presented here numerous times, and we might as well try to figure out something different that will yield a fruit there.
I mean, I appreciate the layout. I think the layout is nice. I like the way, you know, the streets line up and connect with the neighboring community. And then the elevations you presented look more like single-family homes than they do like, you know, apartment blocks. So I appreciate the effort that's been made. I said, I have concerns about the density.
My only real complaint is that 10-foot. I think that one's not going to work. It's a very tough piece of property. We know that. We spent before us sitting next to the railroad tracks. You have the ball diamonds and everything across the railroad tracks that are going to be well in use. We have approved duplexes. Evans Farms has come with duplexes, as you've already indicated. Epcon, yes, they're common enough in Orange Township. I guess I'm curious why Delaware Planning had an issue with it. You haven't know why that struck them?
I haven't spoken to them directly, but I imagine they're just going off of
The
our
density
comprehensive
numbers.
plan and our zoning code.
Yeah, you know, and I'm a bottom line kind of guy, you know, and I know you are too. It's like, I would like to see something that can get through the township trustees. And with Delaware County Planning not liking the density, and I've already seen some information of that, to me, I don't really have an issue. They're private roads. We've approved duplexes and other issues, these spots, but again, I would not approve anything with the 10-foot. just even the picture, it looks way too crowded and all kinds of reasons that I need more space. But the rest of it, I don't have that much of an issue. Because I agree with you. You have to build something that's going to be sold. It's going to work. It's an extremely difficult piece of property. We appreciate that you're here.
Yeah, and we still need enough to make it work.
Yeah, I was concerned with all the divergences, but with the private roads, to me, some of those aren't quite as important. I do like some other comments from the residents about the buffering on North Road. I think as a maximum for that you can do is absolutely would be appreciated.
Yeah, and we can go through some of those details once we hear your comments. We actually have some slides showing elevations and sections that weren't part of your packet, so we can look at those too. And I think we've shared those with some of the residents. That way you can see them also. You guys have not had that footage.
Is this intended to be slab or slab on grade, or is there
I
a
think
basement?
they're actually showing stairs that go
Go
down.
down to a basement. You can actually have a
That
basement.
was gonna be my question.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, because
Well,
that was my thought.
I only say that because maybe a way to save costs on, because I think we all understand the challenges of this site, and we definitely hear the point in relation to the units that are going to back up to the railroad tracks. But it's a suggestion is maybe looking at other ways to make those more economical, whether they go to slab units or something with no basements, and maybe that's a way, to kind of appease the
Because
cost.
I was going to say that also, because you're saying you're targeting empty nesters. Well, of course, empty nesters want storage.
Storage.
Right?
That's why the basement's there.
Exactly.
But
So
by the same point, if it's slab on grade, it's easier to make accessible. Which
correct.
also appeals to,
Empty nesters.
Empty
And
nesters.
when you get older, that's what you want. You want more.
or definitely a ground floor master.
Yeah. So that's when you said that came to mind. That's what normally we do in that situation. But yeah, I agree. I like the. I understand. I should say that along the railroad tracks you have to be creative, right? And no, I understand that fully, and I do like your layout there. I sometimes we get knocked a lot because we do have pretty tough density things compared to other communities.
right.
So I struggle with that sometimes. But yeah, no, I think you guys have a good plan here. I do agree, though, that front, it should be uniform with what's across the street. So if it's 65 or whatever across the street, that would be. Another question, though, I have is illumination at the entrance. So what kind of, and of course, I don't have the packets, so if it was in there, I'm sorry.
Well, we're not proposing any streetlights within the subdivision. Now, there's lighting that's on the sign, which matches everybody. We're using the same sign, except it's got obviously a different name on it now, so it's but it's illuminated. But that's all that's in that subdivision. Now, if you guys would like light poles or think we should
I just think for safety reasons coming out onto the road, sometimes it's nice to have.
Yeah.
Honestly, for the residents in the area, I think they would. This is my opinion.
Plus, we'll have that beacon. That is, obviously, we got to talk to the county engineer. That was your guys' road maintenance response, which I thought was a good idea. Obviously, that's only working when somebody's crossing the street.
Yeah. As you guys are thinking through some of these things, and maybe the options, and maybe doing some redesign or whatever, I'm assuming this was intentional and maybe from previous meetings, but the way that the entrance where you come in and you kind of have this visibility straight through, where you're not just like driving in and looking straight into a unit. I think one of the previous designs, they had placed a structure right there, so you would when you would be turning into the community, there's like a building, and there was I don't know if it was their clubhouse or what at one point, but then they, kind of did what you're doing, which I appreciate. I think that's going to be a better design to where, there's either if that's where one of the amenities go or something, to where it's like that's your entrance and that's what you're looking at as you're coming into the community, or even across the street, neighbors leaving theirs. It's not like you're just looking in and seeing like the face of a structure or something like that. So I do like how you guys did that. So as you guys are working through that, if that can be maintained.
Like a gazebo thing.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And I
Dog
think that's
park.
Dog park.
There you go.
Or with
Yeah.
a top-up playground,
Yeah.
whatever.
Remember, we're talking empty nesters.
Dog
Maybe
park.
dog.
Gazebo.
Everybody's got a dog.
Yeah.
Give them a place to fight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not a baseball.
So any other comments from the board before we go to public comment? No? Minutes, good? Good? All right. All right, so at this time, we'll open it up to public comment. Like I said, if you come up to speak, try to keep to 3 minutes and then state your name and address. Do we have anybody tonight wishing to make a public comment?
Hey, Steve Cohn, 1370 Farnham Street. I'm just going to pull my email that I sent you guys. Yeah. Thank you to the board for a lot of your feedback we actually agree with. So especially those staff comments in the report and Delaware County's recommendations. Question for you guys. When Delaware County conditionally approves that and makes those recommendations, is that something that you guys have to enact, or is that simply just a recommendation?
Recommendation.
Gotcha. Our main points that you guys put in your staff report that we strongly agree with is about removing or replacing duplexes with all single-family, consistent, standalone condos. And this has been a long journey for our community with what happened with the multifamily units and just the overwhelming amount of units they wanted in that space of land. So those duplexes we would like removed or substituted with single-family standalones. Along North Road, and I have a lot of stake personally because I live on the other side of Farnham Street, so it is like right in my backyard. It's a few hundred feet away, and my wife and I lived in multifamily units until a few years ago, and we each got our graduate degrees and saved up to be in a community where there's more space and single-family homes around us, and it is right across the street from us, and it is in our backyard. We've got a nice big backyard so we can see it clearly. I sent pictures earlier just to kind of show you guys how close it is from my house's window and from my backyard when I'm out there with my kid and my wife is expecting another one. So we feel like our privacy really changes from having, roughly 40 single family homes that were zoned to now doubling it to 80 is twice as many people. And although they are targeting empty nesters, it doesn't mean it's going to be empty nesters. I appreciate the fact that they're targeting, and Jack has been wonderful with responding to all my emails and questions and charts I'm asking for in PDFs, but it doesn't mean that empty nesters are going to move in there. I want to make that clear as well. We also agree with that green space. We personally would like, because our neighborhood is so filled with children, and whether it's empty nesters with grandchildren or just families with kids, we prefer a playground somewhere within there because our playground is pretty small within our community, and it can get crowded and kids have to wait. We don't want additional spillover into our community. In terms of Delaware County's recommendations, the density specifically along North Road is a big sticking point for a lot of us. A lot of us, face North Road along our community, and we would like less units along there. And personally, I would love if those 7 units on Farnham Street, which is right there, which is right across the street from a lot of us, were to be reallocated or removed somewhere else. Sorry, lots of notes. And then finally, we would love to have mature trees of at least 2 years old that are planted and not little tiny ones because, again, more privacy for those residents and for our residents, and we're hoping for more mature trees. And that's everything. Thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Any other comments?
Good evening, Andy Pitts, PUETZ 5288 Loudon Drive, Steve's neighbor. My backyard also looks at the property and agree with a lot of what Steve had to say. Actually tonight after hearing Jack and the board here, I was curious about all the properties along North Road, and agree with, I believe it was Adam mentioned, improving the aesthetics on the backside because it is along North Road. Will there be will owners be able to store stuff in their backyard? In other words, sheds, pools, that kind of thing, or is that something that's in a declaration as part of the HOA? How do we ensure that it's still aesthetically pleasing long term?
Do you want us to answer that now?
Please.
Okay. Well, that'll be what they call common area. So anything, they don't have lots like you do.
Okay.
So that's common area that's maintained by the whole area. So they're not allowed to do stuff out there unless it's approved by that condominium association. And I've never seen a condominium association that allows, well, hopefully it doesn't allow.
It doesn't.
Sheds and storage and stuff like that.
These
Right.
are draft restrictions. And letter H is storage outside building, playground equipment. No open storage of any kind is permitted. No storage buildings of any kind are permitted, including without limitation sheds or barns. No decorative buildings, including but not limited to gazebos, play sets, playground
So
equipment.
no.
But isn't there a limited common area at the rear of the house that was allowed for, obviously, patios, maybe a seat wall or something? That's about it. That's the extent, right? Wasn't there something in there about that? That was allowing, at least some landscaping and things that can be done at the rear of the house.
And I don't remember exactly what that verbiage is.
Yeah,
There's
but
something.
it's no vertical structures other than a patio.
Or a deck.
Yeah. No, not even that. I think it was just said a patio. I think.
It's a patio, slab, no decks, right?
I think the deck would depend upon the grade of the site.
So I would point out there is language in the zoning text that specifies that there are no accessory structures at all permitted. So that would include decks, pools, sheds, anything like that.
That's covered.
So if we want decks, we need to amend that. Okay.
But I was just saying I don't know it's been a while since I've been out there, so I don't know what the exact grading is.
Well, it's relatively flat.
That's what I thought.
But by the time
Until
an
you hit the
engineer gets
railroad
done
tracks.
By the time an engineer gets done with it, and he's accommodated for drainage swales and then the mounding we want to provide, there may be some situations where a deck is appropriate. But it's going to be a little deck, it's not.
So can I get some clarification real quick? We're not talking about any duplexes along North Road, right?
No.
It's all along the railroad tracks.
Yeah, we designate the buildings specifically.
Because I see their concerns if you get a duplex. They do. You get some families in, and it's a little rough there but along the railroad tracks, it's
There's only
Desirable.
12 and parallel
Yeah.
railroad tracks. Everything else is a standalone single family.
Yeah.
okay.
Even the
Just wanted that
duplexes are kind of
clarification.
hidden within the structure itself. So if you're just driving by, you think there's nothing there but single family.
I think the architecture for the duplexes.
Yeah.
So, Andy, did you have?
Yeah, I will agree that the aesthetics look great. The other point, and I apologize, I looked at what you sent to Steve and Steve sent to me while I was on a plane for work, but the cross the street sight lines and some of the mound, either dimensions or heights, I saw varying. And is that you're proposing different styles, or they do vary along North Road?
They do vary along North Road. Do you have a PowerPoint? Could you bring up, it's like the last like the second to last, third to last slide that will start having those sections and buffers. There's the sections there. So we're anticipating that we have 5 to 6 foot mounds along North Road on our side. Our side's on the right, except at the very entry where we're the side of the house. So this was showing you the proposed density of this. We usually look at this at 3 to 4 years. That wouldn't be day one, but we put these trees in about 6 to 7 feet tall for the evergreens. And then the shade trees, I think we specify 2 or 2.5 inch caliper, which that's not a height. That's the trunk. So that's about, depending on the species, a 15 to 18 foot tall tree. So they're over 2 years old, which is good. But that's showing your sight line views from your home over. So you're kind of really just seeing the tops of these houses, and that's, like I said, 3 to 5 years. After that, you're probably not seeing any of it. And we're fairly, if you go to another section, it shows the elevation. I think it's back one slide or forward. Can't remember, but you'll figure it out. Yeah, this is, if we hooked them all together, it would be the whole thing. But we wanted to show you, so left is north, going all the way south. So this is the density of the plantings along that. So you can get a look at that. This is what it is. If there's issues, we space them together, whatever, but I wanted you to see what this landscape would look like in elevation. You never see it like this because you're going at an angle, but
And at what maturity do these
probably the
show
same,
here?
3 to 5. Yeah.
This is basically what it'll look like from year 3 to 5.
Yeah. And they're just, yeah. So if I show them the day they go in, 6-footer,
Right.
isn't fair, but me showing them mature isn't fair either. So
Sure.
most of these trees will probably get to be, I'd say 50 to 60 feet tall.
Okay. Those are my only questions.
Right. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Erica Phillips. I'm at 5265 Loudon Drive. And I just want to point out that I know he showed the mounds along North Road. And there's that, so my house actually backs to North Road. So I see right into that property. And the mound that's behind my house is actually only like a partial mound. So it maybe covers about half of my backyard, not the full extent of the houses that go along North Road. So there isn't actually that coverage all along North Road. And I also agree with, I didn't want to repeat everything that Steve mentioned, but we've had conversations about that. Again, I also have a young child and we back up to the road and we can just walk right across the street basically. Mm-hmm. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, hi, my name is Harish and I live in 5683 Dorrington Street. And a couple of comments like the Delaware Planning Committee, they have given a very good, points that needs to be put in place for it to be a good, layout. One of the concerns like, the density, and density can cause multiple things like, first I wanted to cover that the second exit is coming into the North Forms, community already, right? So if you can scroll up, yeah. So yeah, if that one comment that, Adam mentioned that, if that is kind of a straight line, that would look good. Is that what I think, right, Adam?
I was talking about the main entrance off the North Road. But,
okay, yeah. I have concerns about, this entrance, like, because people can drive and use North Forms entrance, right? That single family entrance. So mainly coming to traffic, right? When it comes to density, traffic, because North Road is extending both sides. One is going to Shell Meadows, new elementary school after the Shannon, and then the, Green Meadows, North Forms roundabout, which is on a Lewis Center Road. It's extending to Green Meadows, which can go up to Orange Road, I believe, right? Yeah. So I wanted to make sure, like, whether from the traffic perspective, I know it's 2 exits of this layout. So one is the main entrance and one with the North Forms community, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, it gets crowded, first of all, once those roads already extended. And then we have a park next to our North Forms community. So it's already been packed and it is just very near to the school district, all 3 schools, school traffic, school buses, and parents picking up kids. So they're all using North Forms because, and another thing is the train track, right? Like at least 1 hour, if train goes, I mean, they will close that roadways. The traffic piles up until the 23. Sometimes in the Lewis Center Road, same thing happens on Shannon because all 3 schools fit into both sides. So my main point is traffic, and second thing is about the school population, right? Children's. So I think the target audience was empty nesters, but I don't think that is. I don't believe that because it's very close to the school district, all three schools. So I'm thinking like 80, at least 80 kids from 80 units is what I'm looking at into the school district, and schools are already crowded. They're asking for new levies. So I mean, reducing the density would kind of solve the problem. And we have seen the journey like previously we did a couple of meetings with the previous multifamily rezoning. So we oppose that, and thanks for the trustee members for that, for understanding neighbors' concerns and doing that. So, and we are in the right track, but density is kind of my main concern coming to the school district, school population, and the traffic. Like the school buses, right, train track is a deadly combination. And then we are making from 40 units to 80 units. That is, I mean, and then roads are getting extended both sides, North Road especially. We have a park where football camps are going on, a lot of traffic coming in and go every time. So while residents, anybody living on North Road, going to offices, 23. So now North Road is kind of side road for 23.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So yeah, please, address those comments. The Planning Commission has already given very nice points about this, Delaware County Planning Commission. So if we can address those, I think it's a good layout. We are getting there. So initially when multifamily proposal came, so we kind of very much opposed that. We do have a lot of other lands in the township which are eligible for that, but not for this parcel. But single family, I know these, we are into single family now, so which is a good. And the duplexes and density are those we are going the right direction, but we are to accommodate these comments.
Okay.
Is what my understanding.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And Todd, did you guys say that you are conducting a traffic study, or it's being wrapped up?
It is done.
Oh, it is done.
It's done and it has been accepted. I may want to make sure that we get it approved.
But it's in your book right now. The only difference is it doesn't have a stamp on it.
This is good because
It just hadn't had the stamp on it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that you all had a copy of the stamp.
Stamped.
because he made some great points there about.
You wanna dot the i's.
Yeah, I think they're all aware of the school issue and all that stuff. in town, so.
Okay. Is there any other public comment tonight?
This is Karthik. I'm from 2859 Cold Spring Drive. So I've been living in Orange Township for the last 7 years, and my brother is actually renting an apartment currently. And we have been actively looking for houses in Orange Township, and only land left is in Louis Center. Only land left is Evan Farms, and it's very, very pricey. And this sounded economical to us because this last meeting when I came here, they said that this price range will be below 500. So I think considering no land left in Louis Center and Orange Township, probably we need to utilize this land for common people as well, not like $1 million house, for at least $500,000. So that's my only comments. I know we have some other issues that other people raised, but probably they can solve this. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. All right, so we will close it for public comment. Is there anything additional from the board before we keep the date? Nothing. Okay. So based on the feedback tonight, and then we'll have to check with the schedule here, Robin. How long do you think it would take to address the comments and concerns that you guys have heard?
And talk to your developer client in terms of.
Right. Yeah, because if you meet a month from now and you need it 2 weeks from today, then I'm probably going to say that's too quick for me.
He's a busy boy.
Well, it's just, we want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure it's done well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys meet just once a month? Or
Twice, but I think we have, well, I don't know. Robin, do we have anything?
So we the next regular meeting date is this coming Tuesday, the 13th, which we have one application on that evening, which Jack will be there as well. Lucky him. The next regular meeting would be the 27th of September, which may be a little too quick. That is up to the applicant. Beyond that,
Submission for that would be 2 weeks before that.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be the 13th.
It's not too far away. Is it?
Yeah.
That's not happened. No, that's not.
Next week.
My mom's coming in town. I only see her once a year. So.
October.
So the first regular meeting date in October is October 11th. I will be out of town for that, but if the board and the applicant wishes to have that date, that's not impossible. Otherwise, we could look at October 25th.
Yeah, when's your second?
What's the second one?
October 25th.
25th. That's.
So that would be a submission on the 11th, and when you're gone. But
So because we're continuing it, you don't need to have the full submittal. 3 weeks or so out. So I would ask that you resubmit 1 week in advance of the hearing so that everybody has a chance to review.
oh, well, we could probably do the 11th, but I don't want to leave you out of all the fun either.
I appreciate that.
So, Jack, what works with you? I guess.
You're the man. October the 25th is fine with me. And that way you have to have the material to him by, what would that be, the 18th or
Somewhere in that range.
14th, 13th or 14th maybe?
Well, yeah, if he's in town. When are you in town again to receive it?
I will be back. Yeah, I will be back on the 19th, but we have other staff here to distribute it.
Okay. Let's do the 11th?
Yeah, we got confirmation that we would like to do it sooner. Sorry.
If the board is comfortable with that, we can
Are you
have somebody
okay?
pinch hit for me.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Does the 11th work for everybody on the board?
Yep.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, can I get a motion to continue rezoning application ZON-22-09 at 5351 North Road to October 11th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Mr. Powitz,
Yes.
Mr. McNulty,
Yes.
Mr. Bellis,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Beer.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Thank you for making the time this evening. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it was nice not having to turn around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So we will move on to the minutes
So
approval.
yeah, so I apologize. This is the second time I have forgotten to send out minutes in advance of the meeting. You have not seen them.
As I was reading that, I'm like, wait a second, did I miss this email?
I
Okay.
apologize. I will get those sent out. Maybe we can do them on Tuesday when we meet next. There is one other issue I want to discuss in terms of scheduling, if you all can stay for just another minute. So the 23 overlay district the moratorium has ended. People are now able to apply for the RCOD once again. So we will start, I've talked to one person who is maybe interested in submitting. He may submit before the end of the year, but I don't think we have anything imminent coming. But according to the text of the RCOD, we do need to set a schedule. It would be one zoning commission work session per month. And my question to you, since we have the regular zoning commission meetings are the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. Do you all have a preference between the first Tuesday of a month or the third Tuesday of a month
I don't.
for those work sessions?
Yeah, I don't think that.
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I will draw up a submittal and meeting date schedule, and we'll do that we'll just draw up one schedule for the rest of 2022 and then all of 2023 at the same time as well, because according to the text, that does have to be codified.
Okay. And then, so we just vote on that next, whenever you have that to us?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
I have nothing.